It's that time of year again where we head out onto the trails to give you the best trail shoes of 2024. We've been testing every major trail running shoe on the market throughout the year to bring you our best picks.
The whole team has been out there putting in the miles to make sure we can give you our most comprehensive best of video ever. We've split the shoes into 8 categories: best distance, best road to trail, best value for money, best for speed, best all-rounder, best grip, community pick, which is what you, the viewers, picked over on our socials, and finally, our choice for TRC Trail Shoe of the Year.
But will your favourite win? Comment it down below right now and let's find out if you're right.
It has honestly never been a better time to be a trail runner, with loads of tech coming in and some shoes brands you might not have even heard of, but stay tuned, there are a lot of really cool, exciting shoes. So let's get straight into it. Best distance.
Yeah, before we get started though, we do need to say that all of these opinions are our own and we haven't been paid by the brands to say anything nice about their shoes. So these are the true unbiased opinions of over 10 plus of our testers at the Running Channel.
Okay, so let's get into the nominees. We've got the Hoka Tecton X3, the Asics Trabuco Max 3, the Altra Olympus 6, and the Nike Zagama 2s.
And if you're looking at these and wondering why they're here, we'll come on to that later. So starting off with the Trabuco Max 3. Now this is interesting because it's such a high stack height shoe. If you're used to what Asics have as their lineup, this is the Super Blast to the Nova Blast. And it's an interesting point because for distance, this is quite nice because you've got a lot of cushion, but if you are someone that likes to feel the trails, then a max cushion shoe might not be for you. But from testing this shoe, the thoughts on the grip was that it was really good. It did feel nice and squishy. So if that's what you're looking for, then this is a great option.
Yeah, I run a lot in the not max versions, so the Trabucos, and they are just great. This Asics grip that they make is incredible, and I just love the contour line nods that they do in all their shoes. Just a cracking all-rounder shoe. Moving on to something that we have to hit head on. This is a expensive, weird-looking shoe, but it is essentially a super shoe. It has a carbon plate. It is made to win races. It's won at UTMB. So if it's good enough to win UTMB, surely it's got to be a good distance shoe. It has this incredible gaiter system, which you can kind of see the reviewer's ankle, which
yeah, it really molds to the shape of your foot, but it's so good because I hate when you go on those dusty, stony, traily runs and all of it goes in your sock, whereas this kind of negates that factor.
But yeah, a fantastic shoe. Using Vibram for the grip, which you'll see in a lot of other shoes that we're going to talk through, but seriously expensive.
Yeah, then coming on to Nike's offering, which is the Zagama, how do you say it? Also using Vibram, which people are loving now that Nike have brought this into their trail shoes. From the tester's opinion, they thought it was quite chunky when they first put it on, but actually then when you get running, you do appreciate the kind of chunkiness of the shoe because it really helps when you are going on quite like rocky, uneven terrain. I also have to say that it's a lovely looking shoe. I mean, it's quite covered in mud at this point, but it still looks great.
Yeah, this might be one of my favorite looking shoes, apart from one later on. And then we're moving into Altra, which for people who are coming into trail running, you might never have heard of this brand, but they're known for this shape of shoe, which you're gonna see a shoe brand later on that have adopted that technique because it is so popular. People are like evangelical about Altra shoes and this sort of foot shape and also zero drop. So most shoes higher in the heel, lower in the toes. This is completely flat, so it's a zero drop. This is a great shoe, but why is this shoe sat here? Well, Altra have introduced BOA system into trail running. You'll see a few other brands start doing it now. The North Face have done it as well. But you used to see it just in road cycling, but now you can tighten your shoes up in a very ASMR way. But yeah, it is showing that there's tech coming to trail running space that is just pushing the envelope, which is why I said it's just a brilliant time to be a trail runner.
Yeah, you might be thinking, why would I ever need BOA systems in a shoe? But it can be really useful. If you're doing a longer race, you might want to be swapping out your shoes. It might be the middle of the night, it's freezing cold, you're not going to be able to do up your laces. If you can literally just pop something on, twist it up and get that kind of tight fitting, you are bam, straight off onto the trails. So that's why we've included it within the distance category. All of these shoes will have lots of other pluses as well, but this is what we've picked as best for distance. So who's won?
It's the Asics Trabuco Max 3. Just a fantastic distance shoe that you can just plonk on and chunk through those big miles, especially if you're testing some proper big ultra distances and marathon distances. This shoe will set you right.
If you're dabbling in trail running, oh my God, if you want to hit up your local park run or you want a pair of shoes that can get you from your front door to the trails, then these are the shoes for you, road to trail shoes.
So we got the Asics Nova Blast 4 TR, the New Balance Hero V8s, the Altra Experience Wild, and the Nike Pegasus Trail 5s.
Now, interesting here is that we have 3 shoes, kind of almost 4, that are road shoes that have been turned into trail shoes. So it's an interesting thing to look for if you do love your road shoes, see if they make a trail version, whether that's like a bit more waterproof, a bit more grip. So starting off with the Asics shoes, these have really good enhanced grip. So if you love your pair of Nova Blast and you do want to dabble in trail running or go to a park run, this is what they're really good for. And on test, they really held up. If you want to do extreme trail runs, so you're going from your front door to the mountains, might not hold up for that because you're losing stuff like lots of protection around the toe box or making sure that the laces are kind of really rugged or other elements of the shoe can withhold that amount of trail running. But if you just want a little bit more grip, a little bit more durability, then this is a really good option.
Yeah, totally. So while the grip isn't that pronounced on these shoes, there are other ones that are. So we've got the New Balance Hero V8, and that grip is another Vibram grip, and it's got a lot deeper lugs, which we'll go on to later. But this is a shoe that if you've watched our which New Balance running shoe is right for you, you will know that we adore. It has just nailed that balance between a shoe that can do both. So like running on the road for me in the shoe, while the lugs are quite pronounced, you don't notice them. And when you're on the trails, you do notice the foam. It has just a cracking balance of both elements of it to make a shoe that, while I still don't know what this is for, is a great shoe.
I think what's nice as well is that like quite a lot of us will be hybrid runners. Like I think of you as a trail runner, but I know you still do some running on the roads.
Yeah.
So going from like your road shoe to your trail shoe, you don't really want that much of a dramatic change. So if you're someone that loves Altras, for example, then this is a trail version of their road shoe. So this is the Altra Experience Wild, and it does have really good grip compared to the road version of this shoe. Also, what I quite like is even though this is in the road to trail category, it still has really nice features, like you've got gaiter attachments on here. So if you did want to purchase a shoe, see if trail running's for you, give a few park runs a go, and then actually you want to go the whole hog, this shoe is kind of ready for you to take that next step without having to then purchase another pair of shoes.
Yeah, definitely. And the reason why it's called the Experience is because it isn't a zero drop shoe. So you're getting the Altra shape of a shoe, but without that zero drop that we just talked about previously. So it's getting you like, it's the entry level drug into the Altra world, basically.
Yeah. And from the testers, they said it felt like a really light trail shoe on their feet for running on the trails. So if you are someone that has a wider foot or that likes Altra or that doesn't want the zero drop but wants a kind of Altra trail shoe, then it's a really good option to look at.
Yeah, and then moving on to Nike, who I feel like have massively stepped up their game when it comes to trail running. We're going to talk about them a lot. I actually ran in a pair of the Ultra Flies in a marathon a couple of weeks ago, which was a road and a trail shoe race. But this shoe is got to be one of the favorites of people out there. All the reviewers I've know absolutely adored running in it. This one has definitely seen some miles, but the grip is not Vibram, but it has the Flywire technology, it has a fantastic fit and a fantastic lockdown, and the React foam in a trail shoe is just great.
I also really appreciate how they do have toe protection on the front, specifically for when you kick a stone, which happens on every trail run I go on. But there can only be one winner, so which one have we picked?
I feel like we might have slightly spoiled it by saying how much we loved it, but it had to be the New Balance. It is a fantastic shoe, and if you're thinking of dabbling in road running and trail running, you want to go and do your park run, you want to go and do a 5K on the road, I just feel like you're not going to go wrong with this shoe. Getting into trail running is not cheap. There's no way getting around it. With the extra things you need, like a running pack, waterproofs, gaiters, you name it, you need it. But this is why best value is so important, because if you're saving some money on shoes, you can spend that money on the other bits of kit you might need. So all of these shoes we've got here are £100 or less.
Yeah, and we have actually found them for cheaper as well. So that is something to bear in mind as well. You do need to shop around. So we have the Asics Gel Venture 9, the Merrell Morph Light, and the Kip Run MT3 Trail.
Yes, so we'll kick off straight with the Gel Venture 9s. There's no getting around it. Value usually means not the best looking, and while this is a heavy shoe, it is still a great shoe that you can hit the trails with. The amount of grip you're getting is what you would find on some other incredible models here. It is a heavier shoe, but it is still a great shoe.
Yeah, so do bear that in mind if you are spending less. it does come at a cost to weight, which might mean that you get a little bit more tired compared to if you're in a more premium, lighter shoe, but I don't think the difference will be that dramatic in impact on your running.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to what I feel like is a slightly more modern looking shoe, you're going to the Merrells, and these are a actually substantially light shoe, but you are not getting the grip that you would look for in the Gel Venture or in the MT Cushion 3. It is a different kind of grip.
Yeah, you do get quite a good amount of coverage. The only thing is the middle portion of the shoe is a little bit exposed. You can see from the wear here, it is starting to wear away. So durability, I know there's the saying of buy cheap, buy twice. I don't think that will be the case with these shoes, but they might not last as long as some of the other shoes that we've listed.
And one thing I did love is the fact that it comes with interchangeable laces. So if you're not feeling the hot pink, you can go for the subtle white. But we've left this one till last for obvious reasons. This is the Kip Run MT Trail 3, or to give it its other name, Mount Cushion 3. And this shoe has won at TDS at UTMB, one of the best trail running series in the world, and this shoe has won. So it's not just cheap, it does the job as well.
Yeah, and it looks really nice as well. Like, you're starting to see more of the premium features coming into that shoe. And actually, from a lot of the testers who have used this shoe, they said it's quite nice that you do get quite like a dramatic drop off at the side rather than some of the like rounded edges that you might see. They've used it for marathons, they've used it for longer distances. It's won at really prestigious events. So if you are looking for an entry level or a cheaper alternative for a trail shoe because you're not quite sure whether you want to pick up trail running, this is a really great option.
Yeah, and the fact that Tito wore these for a marathon, and he's even wearing them now while he's filming.
You can wear them for filming, you can wear them for running, they really do see everything, and I think there's no surprises here. This is the winner of this category.
Yeah, by a long margin. This is an incredible shoe. Well done.
Okay, so for best for grip, we wanted to do a little bit of a show and tell, and that is why we have come to the trail. So grip is essential for trail shoes, especially at this time of year in the UK with this weather, and lugs are super important. They're gonna be what's gripping into the ground to give you that grip.
But it's not just about the lugs, you need a great pair of shoes on top of it, otherwise you're just not gonna get the benefits, and the right amount of lugs is what you need. Since we're gonna be in wet, British muddy conditions for the next couple of months, we've come out to the trails to find a specific, really muddy bit of terrain to show you just how these grip. But what are the nominees? So we've got the Merrell Agility Peak 5s, the Salomon Speedcross 6, and the Innovate Mud Talon Speed.
Right, so the first shoe that we're talking about is the Salomon. Now, this is the OG trail shoe. When I think trail shoes and what I first saw when I got into trail running, it was this shoe. The only thing I would say though is that a lot of brands have got louder and louder in the trail running space, whereas Salomon have kind of stayed the same, or if anything, got a little bit quieter. But this shoe is great. Now, we tested a Gore-Tex version of this one, and it felt a little bit different to kind of other Gore-Tex shoes that we've tested, quite like buttery and soft as opposed to quite like stiff and rigid, which is what you would expect. The one thing that I would say though is that the heel on this shoe is chunky. So if you are someone that heel strikes or kind of your foot sits a little bit further back in the shoe, it's definitely one to try on before you buy because it does take a little bit of getting used to. Yeah,
so Gore-Tex, you might hear us talk about throughout the video, is essentially a waterproof coating that you can get on some shoes. So when you see a shoe listed, you might see another version of it with GTX, which just means Gore-Tex. It is essentially a waterproof covering that people either love or hate. It depends on whether or not you've got sweaty feet or not. Because essentially it seals in your feet away from the weather, but keeps all the sweat deep in there. Yeah, I'd be interested to know, does anyone use Gore-Tex shoes or do you use waterproof socks? Let us know in the comments. Yes, waterproof socks. And then obviously we've got the Merrells. They are, I would say they're like a really fashion first, and then it's like, bam, there's some serious grip. Yeah, you're not expecting the lugs on the bottom, but they are pretty hefty. Yeah, and our testers have done a lot of iterations of this shoe, and they are just a firm favorite for kind of any trail running. And the fact that it has a large amount of cushioning with a really, really impressive amount of grip, it just makes it a cracking shoe to go out and run for. Yeah, the only thing I would say is that if you are someone that has a slightly wider foot, quite short laces on these shoes, so just be aware that you might need to swap them out. Yeah, definitely. And then we've got the Innovate Mud Talon. I mean, it has to be good for grip if you're going to name them that. And essentially, Innovate have gone through a rebrand this year and have brought out these new line of shoes that are, they look a little bit like another brand. I'm just going to say that, but they do work incredibly well on really muddy British terrain because they are a British brand based in the Lake District, so they built it around the terrain that they're in, so they are super grippy.
I think it's really nice as well that they now come in 2 widths, because it's something that not a lot of people know about. There are different widths of running shoe, and it's not something you see so much in the trail running space. So they do have a wider foot and then something they call precision fit, which is
the daintier foot.
The daintier foot. But these are incredible. The grip on the bottom of them.
They are amazing.
James is wearing them right now. But there can only be one winner. So the winner is, actually just before I get to that, don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you're enjoying it. It really does mean a lot. But the winner has to be the Innovate. If you're calling yourself the Mud Talon, it has to deliver, and this shoe really does.
Okay, you want to go fast on the trails? These are the shoes for you.
Yeah, so we have the Saucony Endorphin Rift, the Hoka Mafate Speed 4, and the Adidas Terex Gravic 3. So should start off with these.
Yes, so these are, again, this is the shoe I teased earlier. I think this is the best looking trail shoe out there. It is just a fantastic shoe. The foam that they're using is the technology from their road running, but they paired it with this incredible grip. This is the little sister to the more aggressive carbon plated shoe they have on their roster, but this shoe is just made for speed, made to go fast and shorter distances, and it just ticks that box. We found that testing even on really muddy terrain, you could still go really quickly, and it's just a fantastic, I mean, I could frame this, it's that beautiful.
I think speed is such an interesting one when it comes to trail running. I'd love to know, if you're watching this, how much do you care about speed, and is that at the forefront of your mind when you are running on trails? Because the second one that we picked also doesn't have a carbon plate. So this offering from Hoka, I don't think you can make a better shoe. And you might, that's a bold claim, and you might see this one later on. But for me, this is just everything that I personally look for in a trail shoe that I'm picking up every now and then to go and hit the trails. Hopefully, I'll be hitting a lot more trails next year. But this shoe, incredible grip. It has a really durable, rugged outsole, but you've also got a really nice layer of kind of squishy, nice foam in the midsole of the shoe as well, so it does feel quite responsive. The only thing is one of our testers is now hitting close to 500 kilometers in these shoes, and they have said that it does feel less responsive as time goes on. So if you're looking for a shoe that can hammer out lots of miles, this might not be it, but realistically as well, trail shoes, I think you do wear through them a little bit quicker than road shoes just because of the different terrains that you're doing. But I just think the colorways, the design, the fact that you've got quite a nice wide toe box and you've got a little bit of toe protection as well, just makes it a great, easy to transition to pair of trail shoes.
Yeah, he loves them so much he's picked up another pair. Moving on to the Adidas, which I said before we started filming, I think is probably one of the ugliest shoes on this roster.
Oh, not a fan of the orange, I quite like it.
Not a fan of the like tie-dye look. It's like it's run out of color. But again, this is a fantastic shoe for going fast. It was one that, while it doesn't look like, it has a lug depth of 4.5 mil, it shouldn't look like it's that good on trails, really performed well when you're going fast downhill as well as uphill.
Which is a really interesting thing for trail shoes, because that's when you really start to either trust or not trust the grip that you've got in your shoes. So you really do I want deep lugs that will dig in so that I know when I put my foot it's not going anywhere, and then I can spring off again.
Yeah, I remember I did a race in Madeira where I did the marathon, but there was like a 170, 180 kilometer race, and the leaders of that came past you during the marathon, and I was going so slowly downhill, and this guy flew past me saying, just trust your shoes.
Which you really do have to do. Now, it will come no surprise as the winner that we picked in this category is, the Hoka. We will talk about this shoe more later on, but it is a great shoe if you want a little bit of speed and a little bit of style. So if you want one pair of shoes to rule them all, then these are our top picks for the best all-rounder trail running shoes.
And these are also probably the muddiest shoes we've got. So we've got the Nike Wild Horse 8s, the North Face Summit Vective Pro 2s. Jess, was that right? I nailed it. I've done this take like 17 times. Then we've got the Saucony Peregrine 14s, and then the Solomon Sense Ride 5s.
So let's start off with the Wild Horse shoes from Nike. So this is the kind of bigger brother to the Pegasus trails that we talked about earlier, but it's not quite as extreme as the Zegamas that we talked about right at the start of this video. So a really nice kind of mid-range shoe, which is why we put it in the all-rounder category. Now, one of our testers has done over 1,000 miles in 2 pairs of the Wild Horse 8s. Absolutely loves them. The only thing that they don't like as much is in super wet and muddy conditions. They said the grip grip doesn't really hold up. But very excitingly, a few of our team went out to Chamonix earlier this year and got a sneak peek at the Wild Horse 10. So they're skipping out the 9, going straight to 10, and that will include improved lug depth and grip. So stay tuned for that in April 2025. But this is an absolute workhorse of a shoe and is a really great all-rounder for hitting the trails.
But moving on to a shoe that might think is a bit weird to have in an all-rounder shoe, it is the North Face Super Shoe. So it's got a carbon plate, it's got some incredible foam. So you think that's just for speed, right? Well, I've run speed sessions in this, but I've also run 100k PB in these shoes. And they have, everything I've thrown at them, they've flown out and done incredibly well. The grip is very minimal. So if you're gonna be going on any kind of muddy terrain, you will struggle. And the wear has started to show, but I have probably put in 400-500 miles in these now. So they are pretty filthy.
They used to be white. Another shoe that used to be a much lighter colour is these from Saucony. Now, my one bugbear with this is that it has this kind of like toe protection, which then goes into a kind of knitted mesh, and they always pick a very light colour. So the previous version of these shoes I had was yellow, that went brown on wear 1, and these also used to be like a light cream colour, they're now brown. But if you don't mind that and you like kind of painting your shoes with what you're going on the trails, then it's absolutely fine. And they do have nice gaiter attachments as well, which is nice, and really, really deep lugs. So actually, I've tested these shoes a lot in really muddy conditions, and I know Jess has as well, and they stand up really, really well. They've also got quite a nice kind of form-fitting shape. Feels more kind of like a hockey rugby shoe, but if that's what you want, then these are really great.
Yeah, and you think with this amount of grip, why would they be an all-rounder? And it's basically the foam. The Power Run foam that Saucony make is just incredible. And even though that lug depth is really pronounced, you just don't feel it when you're running along. It just feels like an incredible, incredible shoe. Moving on to a very, very different colorway, the Solomon shoe with its traditional lacing system. So this speed lacing system that you tie up and then you pop in the little pocket here.
Which is a little bit tricky, I would say. I'd want the tongue to be a little bit longer to fit in, or I wouldn't want this at the bottom of the shoe because that is quite hard to pop in. It's kind of, I see the speed need for it, but it's kind of the opposite to the BOA, where if your hands are a little bit cold and you're struggling to put it in, it is going to be quite difficult.
Yeah, but it is a shoe that has really, really flown in when you're doing speed, but also great at that distance because that amount of foam that you've got is great. The grip looks pretty minimal, but again, you're really noticing it when you're going downhill that you can trust the grip. So yeah, it may be an electric colorway, but it is a pretty electric shoe.
If you want a bright shoe, then that is it. But who have we picked to win?
It had to be the Nikes. They're just a fantastic shoe. And the fact that we can put thousands of miles of shoe reviewing time in these shoes shows that it is an all-rounder shoe. Fantastic. Good work. Okay, so we are through the categories and now we're on to the big shoes of the year. Your pick and ours.
Yeah, so starting off with my pick of the year is, obviously it has to be the Hoka Mafate 8 Speed 4. It's just such a great all-rounder shoe. I feel like trail running shoes are so personal to you, and for me, I want to whack on a pair of shoes, run through some pretty scenery, and feel like I'm not thinking about what my feet are doing, what they feel like, or what I'm running on, and how uneven the ground is. And these do that for me. What is your pick?
I mean, again, it's going to be pretty obvious. So for me, it was the North Face Summit Pro Vective 2s. They are just, they're a shoe I thought I was going to hate, to be fair. But I thought I was going to be fighting with them. They got a carbon plate, they got a lot of foam. I adore them. And the fact that I've run my 100k PB in them, which if you haven't seen the video, go and watch it there. I just love them so much. They are sat at my desk and I look at them every day. That is how much they mean to me. They are just a fantastic shoe that are just wowed me this year. Properly wowed me.
You have a proper muddy desk. Mine stay outside my front door, but maybe I should move them onto my desk. And now, as voted by you across all of our social channels, the TRC Community Trail Running Shoe 2024 pick is
the Brooks Cascadia 18s.
Now, we have reviewed a previous version of the Cascadias in a previous trail running shoe roundup video. So if you want to go see that, then go check that out. We've only just got our hands on these, but clearly lots of you love them. So if you want us to do a full test, then let us know in the comments.
Okay, so there we have it. Best trail shoes of 2024. Now, if your shoes didn't get picked, go down the comments and put your own review. Go and fight in the comments and we will pick and pin the best review you guys put.
Oh yeah, and if you like this video, please make sure you're subscribed and do drop a comment and like the video if you liked it. It really does go a long way. And now, if you want even more reviews, go and check out where me and James reviewed the best running watches 2024.